Hey guys, I was out turning the compost in our kitchen garden this afternoon, and while I was moving all of this, I found this. There were 8 of them, and now there are these 4, 2 eggs and 2 that I kept out to show my wife when she gets home. But right back there in the corner of the compost, while I was moving and turning all of this material to continue composting, I found these snake eggs. So kind of interesting. These snake eggs are just kind of weird. They don't. They feel a little bit soft and not real hard. But of course, these guys have died now because I cracked those 2 open. But when they came out of the eggs, they were wiggling around and like they were ready to hatch. So I'm going to finish cleaning up this compost and move on with the rest of the day. So for any of you that have been following us for a while, you know that we have been working with the Back to Eden method of creating some soils. And while we're still going to do that, we are making some changes. And part of it is just the amount of time that it takes to create the soil underneath. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If you look, this is just in our backyard, but these are the soil conditions we end up dealing with in the summer months. Just this black gumbo clay soil, very hard, just like concrete. So nearly impossible to plant anything in. You can see just how hard this is. There's just nothing you can plant or grow in that. So we started with the Back to Eden gardening on this large section of our field over here. And I cleared this spot right here to show you that after about 16 to 18 months underneath it, we do end up with some really nice, beautiful soil to work with. The problem is it takes a really long time for this to break down. So we're going to try it a little bit differently moving forward and use the mulch to mulch around the plants and create soil over each season and try to improve it. We're also using the materials like the bedding out of our chicken coops and stuff to mulch around the plants, as well as adding the mulch there. So let me show you this area down here that we just plowed up. We just plowed this up to start getting ready to expand this for next season, and we were trying to figure out how exactly we wanted to do it. So the first time this ground is broken, using a tiller, cultivator, plow, whatever we've used, this is what we end up with. No matter whether this is wet, dry, it is like brick. I mean, I think you could build a house out of this stuff. It is incredibly hard. Now, some of this does have some mulch in it because we've had some mulch that we've put here, but all of these areas, even the areas that we didn't have any mulch in at all, like down here, back out in this area, we've had limited amounts of it, and some of that's the first time we've actually turned it at all. But the whole thing, everything out here, even the areas we've added mulch to, are just rock hard. So instead of waiting for a really long time for all of this to break down, we're going to continue, like I said, to put this around our plants. We have irrigation water lines, the drip tape that goes under here to feed these little squash plants and the rest of it. This area we grew stuff in the early spring, and this too, some of this has been grown in before, but even after growing in it for a season, we've still got it it's just awful. Doesn't matter if you plow this wet, dry, or what we seem to add to it as far as natural amendments. It's just taken a really long time to get a soil conditions that are suitable for working easily. And part of it we had, you can see here, this is what was between a couple of rows, and the same thing here. These are 30-inch, they were on 30-inch beds, but even with mulching over the weeds, some areas it did all right and some areas it didn't. But we still have a lot of weeds that will come up even in the mulch. So instead of waiting for this mulch to break down in place, and especially over so many months that we don't get enough rain. Our mulch guys are still bringing it to us, which I'm happy for, but we are going to try doing this differently and compost it in place. So using the tractor, I have put all of this up into mounds, and of course it has to get wet and have water on it in order for it to break down. So we're going to run some sprinklers and see if that will help us break this down a little bit faster. The other thing is to help us to control the weeds in such a large area. Using the mulch was just becoming not practical. Did a pretty good job for the most part, but with limited time, it's still a challenge. So I'm putting down, starting in the major work spaces or the major walkways, like this one that goes down the whole first section. There's a section on the right and left here. Each of those is about a 1/4 acre, and so I'm putting down the black plastic to help us control the weeds and keep this area more manageable. You can see even after a year of working this, we still have a lot of this lawn grass that wants to come up in some areas. So really hard to get rid of that, but we're trying, and we'll continue to work on it. So the Back to Eden garden has some success and some failures. You have to take that in context with where you are and what kind of soil you have, because it really does create a beautiful soil as it breaks down. It does a good job. It just takes a really long time. If you're starting with a decent soil to begin with, you know, something that's not a brick, basically something that's not like working with concrete, then the Back to Eden garden may work better. It may work faster, and you may be able to control the field weeds and stuff like that more easily. But for us, we're going to try a couple of different things in order to get some soil that's actually workable. So we'll keep you updated and see how the soil changes over time. So if you guys were watching any of our videos earlier this week, you know that we had a sick chicken and found out what we think was caused egg bounce. And my wife worked really hard using Epsom salt baths and things to try to get her back to life and get her healthy again. But as you can see, she's gone, and that simply didn't work. Not sure if it took us too long to figure it out or notice it, but when you got sick birds, you just want to get on that as soon as you can, see if you can figure out what's going on. So again, if you guys have been watching our channel for a while, you know we raised a lot of chickens, but we also raise chicks for people that want backyard chickens. So we have setups like this one on our pastures. So we have our pasture raised chick. It's one of the chicken tractors. We can move around, and you can see all those. Hopefully you can see through all the fencing there. These happy birds in there. One of the things that we did this week was we went ahead and bought it's called a shock or not, a solar electric fence. We use these around all of our portable chickens, but this particular one has this really fine mesh down here at the bottom, and that is keeping these young birds or chicks from getting out through the larger mesh. So if you haven't seen one of these before, it's real simple. It sits out in the field, has a solar charger on it, battery inside the case, cable comes to a ground, and then goes and connects to the fence right here. We've had really good luck with these keeping the larger predators and things like, raccoons and possums and coyotes and cats and things have not penetrated this. We've had maybe almost a year of using these type fences, we've had a couple of instances where an owl or a hawk or even a falcon would swoop down and get inside and get one of the birds, but for the most part, it's doing its job keeping all those larger predators out. So we get these fences like this one, and the other ones you've probably seen in our other videos, like way out there. So if I can zoom in on that, you can see the other, on the other side of our pasture, that white one out there, that's the regular white solar electric fence, and we have them around our other birds in the market garden as well. But we get these from Premier One. This is the Solar IntelliShock 30, and been really happy with it. So if you're thinking about backyard chickens, they're a great fence, portable, easy to move. So if you need one, you know where to get it.